Ladies and gentlemen, sports fans alike, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago, one of the couple, two, three best podcasts around. So sit back, grab yourself a cold one and a Polish sausage, park your keister in the French room, and listen to Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
In Chicago, you know that all sports rock. The Bears, Hawks, Bulls, Cubs, and Sox. Pick your favorite, you can choose, as long as the Packers lose. For everything you need to know, it's Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. This is your hosts, Alex and Sean. On this episode, we are going to be just eviscerating this stupid Bears team and game, and probably talking a little baseball. But first, I'd like to thank our sponsor, the Rockford Ice Hogs. If you're not familiar with the Rockford Ice Hogs, they're the AHL minor league affiliate of the Chicago Blackhawks. What does that mean for you? You can see the Stars of tomorrow today at family-friendly, affordable prices. Season is right around the corner, so head on over to icehogs.com, get yourself a hat, shirt, jersey, tickets, and more. Tell them Swerski Sports sent you. Alex, confession, I turned this game off right before halftime.
I turned it off in the first quarter, and then I turned it back on when things got interesting. When it looked really obvious to me, or at least it's seemingly obvious, that it looked like it was going to be an absolute embarrassing blowout. I mean, I was getting 2014 Green Bay vibes, if you know what I mean. The Vikings looked like they were playing a scrimmage game in the backyard against the Bears in the first quarter. I'm thinking, okay, this is awful. I mean, the first play for the Bears offensively was a false start. I mean, I'm like, okay, this isn't even. And at that point, I'm like, I don't smoke, but I need a cigarette. So
wasn't the first play? Wasn't the first play delay a game?
It was delay. Okay, it was delay again. Okay, that's right. It was not a false start. It was delay. I mean, either way, it's still really bad. That's right. It was delay game. But yeah, I mean, I was thinking this is going to be an embarrassment. This is going to be a blowout after this. And then I was sucked back in the second half when the Bears actually made some adjustments and Justin Fields actually started looking pretty dang good. And I'm bummed we didn't pull this out because there was a real opportunity to steal a hell of a win against your rivals in Minnesota. And unfortunately, the talent gap reared its ugly head at the end. You couldn't get the stop when you needed to get a stop. You had multiple opportunities on third down to get that big stop to, either keep them out of field goal range or hold them to a field goal. You couldn't get that stop. And eventually you lost the game when you stayed in bounds and fumbled the ball when you should have gone out of bounds. But yeah, I mean, I was bummed, but I'm trying to play a little glass half full today with what we saw from Justin Fields and some of the adjustments that were made. I'm sure in the long run, I'll feel much better about this looking back if things do indeed get better, thinking, okay, we saw this, and this happen. We saw a more confident Justin Fields. He made plays with his leg and with his arm. He, got plays with Darnell Mooney in there, used Cole Kmet a bit. So I'm trying not to be as angry, but, right now it stings you don't win a game like that. There was a real opportunity there, and I'm just going to get it out now really quick. I don't want to go on about the refs too much, but damn it, that awesome run that Fields had, that flag was bullshit. Just had to get that out there.
Yeah, so, backtrack pre-Bears game today. So we have an addition on our house that was built prior to us buying the house. And the floors, when my dad was still alive, the floors, he'd always complain that the floors were cold. And it wasn't until, we use this room a lot now. It's where I'm recording right now. I'm like, man, when it gets cold, the floors are cold, even if the room is warm. And so I went under the crawl space. The rest of the house has a basement. The addition has a crawl space. Under the crawl space, there's no insulation. And so months I've been like, all right, I'm going to I'm going to put insulation in there before the winter. And I'm like, you know what? This is going to be probably one of the last weekends that's nice. And my wife and daughter are out of town. I will put all of the insulation in there before the Bears game. So this morning, I go under there to measure before I go to the hardware store and buy stuff. And there's a family of skunks living under there.
So I knew you were going to find something down there. The way you were hyping it up, it sounded like a Jimmy Hoffa type deal. But hey, yeah, it's when you have a crawl space like that, you never know what's living under those places.
Yeah, so they had dug underneath a spot, and I saw something had dug under there before, but it looked like they didn't get quite under there. So I put like this like metal bars they're supposed to prevent digging, and then buried it. I'm like, okay, no big deal. That'll stop them. Clearly didn't stop them. And they bent it and went underneath or went over it, pulled it away from the house. And I'm like, oh. So close it up and I left it open, went and got stuff, called a friend to get these critters out, get back. All the critters are gone. So I'm like, all right, perfect timing. I pour concrete into the hole that they dug. So now they'll have to dig through concrete. And then, I finished that up. But I'm like, okay, I'm going to come in and watch the Bears game and take a break from doing all this work. And I'm watching this stupid game. And I went, you know what? Right before the last Bears drive of the first half, I'm like, I'm done. I'm going to, I go and I'm like, I'm going to finish this. And I went down there and I finished everything up, come inside, and just in time to watch the fumble, or the Big Dave called it Debo from Friday, my ball.
Oh man.
I'm like, really? I'm like, I see bad football. And then apparently there's good football being played. And then I come back and there's bad football.
Oh, so it's your fault.
It is my fault.
So it's literally your fault. And dude, they were driving downfield. This wasn't like the first play of the drive. They were driving downfield. Justin Fields was under pressure and he was able to get the ball off on a few plays for positive gains. Dave Montgomery was out there getting yards. They were driving, and it would have felt 10 times worse had they only been down 2, because could you imagine if that would have happened and all you needed was a field goal? The Bears needed a touchdown and an extra point to tie, or they needed a touchdown and 8 points to take the lead. So the way they were going, they were looking pretty good. Even so, like, you're never 100% if you're going to finish that drive. But again, still, you were looking good. You had an opportunity. If you had to play for a field goal, that would have been particularly painful. But it was painful either way. But again, it came after a crucial Vikings drive where the Bears just couldn't get a stop. They just could not get a stop. The defense was Swiss cheese in the first half for the most part. Third quarter, they tightened up, looked much better. Fourth quarter, you get an interception from Kindle Vildor. A huge one. I
ended up watching the replay of the game, and I was like, what the heck happened? And, to be able to talk about it. But, the difference between winning and losing. Dante Pettis dropping multiple passes, a blown pass interference in the end zone with Darnell Mooney. I mean, that one, that was they called it a pass breakup. He didn't break the pass up. He pushed one of his hands over so he couldn't make the catch. That's
a perfect ball too.
That's a pass interference. That should have been a flag. The phantom blocking in the back.
Yeah, that was a flop. That was complete acting job.
And then the miscommunication where Justin Fields threw that one in the end zone that
Mooney never
Mooney
turned his head on.
And You know, those were the difference in the game.
The other difference too, I want to add one more thing here is I don't know if you saw this, but when the Bears kicked the field goal to take the 1 point lead, it was 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, one of the two, and they ran up straight up the middle with Dave Montgomery. That
Mhm.
was something where I think if Justin Fields keeps that, he gets the first down, or you could have done a swing pass. I just running up the middle with Montgomery on that play. The Vikings saw it all the way. I didn't think that was the best play call.
No, that was a terrible. There was, it's funny. Some things were started to work. Running straight up the gut was not working today.
No.
David Montgomery looked great when you gave him some space,
Yeah,
like that
absolutely.
that shuttle pass that he caught that went for like 17.
Mhm.
Excellent. But here's the thing that we learned today is Justin Fields, when he gets a little bit of time, it's a different quarterback. And in the second half, we saw him get a little bit of time. The receivers on this team, without N'Keal Harry and without Byron Pringle, are straight up garbage.
Yeah, I look forward to getting some more around him next year. I really do.
Yeah, I mean that has to be, and hopefully even we see more when. I mean, I don't know how much longer Pringle is going to be out, but N'Keal Harry is ready. I mean, he's designated return. He can return now if he's healthy. He's off of injured reserve. I know he's not a world beater, but he's better than Dropsy Pettis. Sam Mustafa, who has blocked me on Twitter,
and many others.
Many others, yes, is straight up garbage. He is terrible. And honestly, Lucas Patrick is not that much better. He looks terrible. And Larry Borum is not that good either. I think Cody Whitehair, before he got hurt, was fine. I think Tevin Jenkins is going to be solid.
Just solidify him in a spot already.
Oh, Tevin Jenkins.
What are we doing here?
Just leave him alone at guard. I think Braxton Jones is starting to grow into that position. I don't know if he'll ever be elite, but he's growing into it. But man, you desperately need to upgrade over Sam Mustafa. He is just terrible.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is when you have a line the way you do and you have the receivers that you have, it is difficult. And, we've said before that it's going to be difficult at times evaluating Justin Fields because of what's around him. And look, there have been times where something goes wrong. It's clearly on Justin Fields, but I felt today Justin Fields didn't make any of those obvious mistakes like what we saw in the Texans game. Like those 2 interceptions, I can't blame the receivers of the line on those. He just flat out missed those throws where, today, like you mentioned, the drops, those are a big thing. It's tough when you make the play and it's not completed because, it could get in your head a little bit. And I think Justin Fields is kind of going through the mental game right now, trying to adjust that because you didn't see a very confident quarterback a few weeks ago. At least today, we saw a more confident quarterback, and hopefully that's something to build on. And it's not like you were at home against some schmuck team. You were on the road against the current first place team in the NFC North in a very difficult environment to play. So hopefully that confidence can kind of carry over. I'd really like to see him just ball out against the Commanders on Thursday night. Thursday night football is usually so bad. The Bears offense has been so bad. The Commanders have been really bad. I would really like to see him just ball out Thursday night. Just please.
Yeah, we desperately need that. But man, this game, didn't start well for the Bears. The defense looked like hot garbage in the first half.
Very soft.
Yeah, they were playing to not give up explosive plays, and they just gave up, a complete dink and dunk. And honestly, Kirk Cousins was fine with that. He will just dink and dunk. He's fine with that.
Yep.
And the Bears couldn't get a lot of pressure on him, or didn't get any pressure on him in the first half.
No.
And without Jaylon Johnson still in the lineup, you've got a bunch of young cornerbacks that are still learning the position in the NFL. And
missing Jaylon Johnson was again very noticeable today.
And it was bad. I was expecting this to just be an epic blowout. And when right off the bat, like, all right, the Bears got a score on the first drive, but you're like, they can't kick field goals when other teams are scoring.
Yeah.
They need a touchdown. And they're just settling for field goals. When we talked before the season started, I said I thought the Bears were going to be competitive in these games, because I was like, I think they're going to play. They're not going to have the same penalties that they had under Nagy, and they're going to play a tough defense and a competent offense, and they're not going to win a ton of games. But I was like sure that we would see those things, and we're just not. The offense is not competent, and partly is scared play calling, partly is a young quarterback, partly it's a bad offensive line, partly is you have no weapons. And Cole Kmet is just, I don't think he's ever going to be that guy. He's not a weapon. And the defense just does not have players.
No, the defense just, it just flat lacks talent. And, today was more in the end like the loss I would expect going into this season. It was close. They did have a lead, and they got beat by another team that is more talented. The Vikings are more talented. They're in first place. And, the Bears didn't quit. They made it a game. They made adjustments. And, I'm hoping that it's a step in the right direction, because, I remember when we said last year that controversial loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers where Justin Fields balled out. I was really hoping that was going to be the breakout. There were struggles after that, obviously, but I hope that maybe this can help push things forward a little bit. I mean, I will say this, at least since the Texans game, very slow, very, very slow, but we've seen a bit better each week from Justin Fields. Last week against the Giants, the offense overall was complete dog shit, but at least Justin Fields completed some passes down the field. And then this week, we saw him do a little more. He completes the passes downfield. He made some nice reads. That was encouraging to see. And again, some of the incompletions, not on him. That was on a receiver, or it was a missed DPI call. So, that's what I'm hoping to get out of this game. I really am. This was the first loss this year where I felt like I could take away goods. The Green Bay loss, I couldn't take away anything good, and I could really not take away much good against the Giants. This loss, I could at least say, you know what, Justin Fields looked a lot more competent. Things were clicking more in the second half offensively as a whole. And you mentioned Cole Kmet. I don't know what he's going to be like, but at least we saw some nice plays to him in the second half. So really trying to play glass half full here. The loss still stings, in my opinion, and we need to see more of this consistently. We can't be picking and choosing from here, and here. So we got to deal with the Commanders next, and then we got to just kind of keep going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's the second half. It was nice to be able to look at that and go, all right, they've tightened things up on defense, and they gave up one score in the second half.
It's unfortunate because that was crucial, and they just got picked apart.
They did.
Yeah.
It was some bad tackling. But they only gave up one score in the second half.
Yep.
And they looked okay. And
you got a field goal block too.
Yeah, they got a field goal block. Would they have scored on that last drive if that player didn't have the ball ripped out of his hand? I don't know. It would have been interesting to see. But Smith Marset is not the answer. I mean, that guy just had the ball ripped out of his hand, and I believe he was the one that got the phantom blocking in the back call too. Roquan Smith, where the hell was he this game?
There was a crucial tackle he missed on that final drive.
Yep.
Would have been, I don't know if it would have been a loss, but I don't think it would have been really a gain.
Yeah,
I'd have to look back at it, but I remember that missed tackle.
It would have either been a 1 yard, 2 yard loss or no gain, but it was he had to make that, and he didn't.
It's frustrating because we talked about Roquan, and he's shined in one game, the game against the Texans, he looked great, and in all the other games, he looked either bad or meh.
Yeah, it's I do not be surprised if he's not a Bear next year, not for the fact that he wants to leave, but they may not offer him
the money.
Hey, because if this is how he's playing in a contract year, I don't know what to say. And I don't know if he's just out of shape because he didn't go through training camp and it's hard. I've heard players talk. It's hard to get in shape in the season.
Oh, I'm sure it is. It's the NFL.
You basically go play the game and then you're recovering. Him holding out might have really hurt him bad. And again,
and who's that on?
It's on him and Saint Romney or whatever his name is. Like, get representation, dude. Seriously, you screwed yourself. Cost yourself a lot of money, I think. But the Bears need edge rushing. Robert Quinn's really regressing. Not that he's bad. He's not, those sack numbers is not there.
Which we can't really say is overly surprising considering he played out of his mind last year and he is aging. Man, I know I said I like having Robert Quinn on the team, but I would also be lying if part of me is like, you know what, I wish they could have just taken advantage of that value on the trade market. But it also depends on what they were going to get.
Yeah, who knows? I mean, if teams were offering like a 5th round.
Yeah. That's hard to,
you would have been like, all right, who do we put as the starting edge rusher?
I'm just curious to see what some of the offers could have been. Just curious.
But the Bears definitely, if they would have won this game, would have stolen it.
Absolutely.
They're not as good of a team. They didn't play as good a football. The Vikings looked like they were just going to just crush the Bears.
Yep.
And at one point, then Kirk Cousins goes, "Oh shit, I'm Kirk Cousins," and as Ross Reed put it, he made pee-pee in his pants and and played like it. But
the opportunity was there to take it. That's what just kind of is a bummer. If they, again, I'm trying to take the positives out of this, and I feel better now than I did in the first quarter because it felt like at this point right now, we were going to be talking about like a 42-10 blowout loss. And let's be real, there's no real positives you can take out of that.
One thing that you can take away that And I almost like a carryover from last week is situational smarts on defense. Is there was one play where they threw a bubble screen and then Justin Jefferson threw the ball completely the other side of the field to Dalvin Cook, who ran for a first down and kept that drive alive. And that should have been, they should have just ended that drive right there and given up no points. And it was so demoralizing because nobody on the Bears defense picked up that was going to be a trick play, even though the Vikings had a full cadre of blockers on that side. It was so frustrating. And it just goes back to last week when, they kept allowing those bootlegs to murder them. And the Bears need to stop shooting themselves in the foot. Last year, the shooting themselves in the foot was pre-snap penalties. And now it's mental gaffes on defense. There's so little margin of error for the Bears to win games. And having plays like that it just really, really emphasizes that, players need to be coached better. There's still some gaffes in this and the players' understanding of the defense and their responsibilities.
Yeah. That's something that just needs to improve because you saw multiple times in this game where you were in position to make a stop and it just didn't happen. And they ended up converting pretty easily. I mean, how many times were they wide open in the flat? Or, how many times was a guy just completely uncontested near the sideline and it was an easy catch? It happened way too much. And I get it. The Vikings are good. Their guys get open. Justin Jefferson's great, but there were times when nothing was contested, especially early on. They're just wide open, just picking you apart mercilessly. And then you saw on the final drive, Dalvin Cook had a few runs where he just sliced right through you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, their run defense is brutal.
It's just frustrating. And, I knew it wouldn't be great, but I was like, I've seen in this style of defense, and I watched Lance Briggs be able to knife through and make those tackles. And I was like, that was my hope, that you'd have Roquan Smith take that spot, the Lance Briggs spot, and knife in and be able to go through defenders and make these tackles. And he's just not doing it. He's not. I'm not at the point saying he's a liability, but he's not an asset at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I think that people share in that sentiment. I got to see how the rest of the season goes with that, but there's going to be some growing that needs to happen there, and whether we see it or not remains to be seen. I mean, at least you could say it's only game 5, but still, it's been 5 games. Wow, it's already been 5 games.
Yeah, it's been 5 games. It's things just have to improve at some point. And it sucks that the bye week comes so late, because it would be this team could really use a bye week, I think, to just correct some issues. And I don't think, like I said, this is not a good team, but I think there's a few things that they could do to steal victories from the jaws of defeat. Like they could have won that game against the Giants, a Giants team that just beat the Packers. They could have beat the Vikings, a Vikings team that beat the Packers. So
Yeah,
they're-
2 of your 3 losses have been close. That's
So
any
they're-
consolation.
so you could have, you could have won these 2 games, and sort of need to learn how to win. And I think as Bears fans, we're frustrated because we're seeing Brian Daboll and the New York Giants. They're not a good team either, and they're finding ways to win.
And I think they're well coached. I'll give them that. I don't think they're going to keep this up, but it also helps that Saquon Barkley looks like the Saquon Barkley they drafted.
Oh, I know. He's playing out of his mind.
And I'm going to say it. I know this is going to backfire, and I know it's probably going to change down the road. I know. But I can't tell you I'm overly impressed with Green Bay so far this year.
No, and I'm actually reading reports that Aaron Rodgers is basing whether or not he retires on if those young rookies improve or not.
Oh,
wide receiver?
please quit. Please quit. Please. Oh my God. Imagine if he retired this year.
That would be amazing, because he would be, the next 2 years, he would count like $50 million versus the salary cap for the versus the Packers. And Jordan Love wouldn't be back either unless they franchise tagged him, which I don't think they could afford. And so that would be absolutely amazing.
Oh my God. If that happened and they had to sign like Nick Foles or something,
Marcus Mariota,
Andy Dalton. Imagine the Red Rifle up in Green Bay.
oh my God, that would
Probably
be hilarious.
torture us.
He would look like a world beater twice a year.
Yeah, he'd look like the Pro Bowler he was in his prime in Cincinnati.
But basically, if I can't be a fan of a winning team, I can be a hater. And I just want to point out that Allen Robinson today, Allen Robinson had 12 yards receiving.
Wow.
He's really lighting it up.
Rams are not very good, are they? Huh?
No, the Rams are
Yeah.
not. Matt Stafford just turned into Lions Matt Stafford.
Worse than Lions Matt Stafford. I mean, Matt Stafford on the Lions was still a pretty good player, but this is not good. Okay, can we take a few minutes to talk about whatever the hell that was on Thursday night?
I only saw bits and pieces. But
Oh
Oof.
my God.
was that a terrible game?
And Russell Wilson.
Can we take a minute to say how grateful we are as Bears fans that Ryan Pace didn't trade the entire farm to get Russell Wilson?
Yeah, especially if you look at Russell Wilson's contract the rest of the way. And it sounds like he's hurt now, too. So I don't know if that had an impact on his play, but so far, the whole Russell Wilson experiment in Denver has been disastrous. I also think that the Hackett experiment has been disastrous, too. I mean, it's a mess in Denver right now.
And they have really not missed Russell Wilson since he left the Seahawks.
I've always been a very big Russell Wilson fan, a very, very big fan, but I'm starting to get the vibe from former players that he wasn't as popular in the locker room as one might think.
Yeah, but Geno Smith comes in, replaces him, and is doing a good job. I mean, they lost today, but it was not Geno Smith's fault. He threw for 3 touchdowns and had a quarterback rating of 139.7.
I can't believe Geno Smith is still playing. Good for him, honestly. Honest to God, good for him.
Yeah, I am happy for him. I don't hate Seattle, and I don't hate Geno Smith.
No,
Um,
no, not at all.
I'm happy for him. The only other guy that I could think deserves it as much as him to do well is Tyrod Taylor. But I'm happy for Geno Smith, and it really shows you that what a good coach that Seattle has.
Do you want to hear the cap hits for Russell Wilson each year on his contract?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so this year, cap hit 17 million. 2023, 22 million. 2024, 35.4 million. 2025, 55.4 million. After 2025, there is a potential out for 2026 4-year, 161 million, 31.2 dead cap. Now, after that, if you saw in the books, 58.4 million, 2026, 53.4 million, 2027, 2028, 54.4 million. Yep.
Yeah, that is not good.
Remember when we almost traded all those picks for him and assets and all that good stuff?
I am so grateful that Ryan Pace did not make that happen. I'm so grateful because
we collaborated and it didn't work out. Well, thank you for that one.
I can't imagine paying 40-year-old Russell Wilson $54.4 million.
No. With this offensive line?
I still love that picture from the other night when he's sitting on the sidelines on the bench in a jacket, just like, and somebody's just glaring at him.
Yeah. Hey, did you ever see that Subway commercial that he did?
I've only seen like people posting like the audio from it on like online, and I was
Be
like,
careful, it's spicy.
Yeah, I didn't realize like he's so weird until like he left Seattle, and I'm like, it almost, if I was a conspiracy theorist, I'd have been like, Russell Wilson retired and he found a guy that looks just like him to take his spot, that doesn't know how to play football and doesn't know how to act in public.
I think it's the weed and the high altitude.
But the Bears got a short week this week. And then they're playing the Commanders, who I hope they play with those black uniforms because those are actually pretty sharp.
They are.
It's the only good thing about the Commanders.
And we better not lose to them. I mean, that's a game where you say you got to win that game. I mean, it's at home. It's against a team that right now still has a worse record than you.
True.
So win that game. Go out, ball out, please. I beg you. Just don't lose to the Commanders at home. I wanna watch a fun game at home on Thursday night. Don't ruin my Thursday night. I don't like it when my Thursday night gets ruined.
I just find it funny that Fox's pregame this morning was just talking all about how the Lions were a juggernaut on offense and they were unstoppable, and they put up a goose egg today against the Patriots.
Yeah, I think it was one of those things where the goose went on their heads and laid the egg right on it. Just
no, Bill Belichick is just an exceptionally good defensive coach. And he's just like, oh, you think you're going to beat me with Jared Goff? I think the fuck not.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me look at the final lines of that game. Okay, so our good friend Zappy, sorry, I don't even know the guy's name. Zappy, who played in Green Bay and like threw like one pass. He was 17 for 21, 188 yards, one touchdown, one interception. Jared Goff was 19 for 35 for 229 yards and one pick. And obviously, like you said, they didn't get points. Williams, their running back, who was doing pretty well, was held to 56 yards on 15 carries. So yeah, the New England Patriots shut out the Lions, who were averaging like 40 points a game. The NFC sucks.
You know what though? If the this NFL season were to end right now, the Steelers might have the number 1 pick.
Well, good for them. They look bad.
Like when was the last time have you ever seen?
I don't think so.
I don't think I've ever seen the Steelers pick in the top 5 in my life.
When was Ben Roethlisberger taken?
I think he was like 50. He was like a teen, somewhere in the teens.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, my whole life watching football, the Steelers have been either in the playoffs or in the playoff mix. I mean, like one of the rarest things in sports is not seeing the Pittsburgh Steelers in a playoff race. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. So Ben Roethlisberger was picked.
And what year was that? Was that like, it was the early 2000s, right? Like
2004.
2004.
He was the 11th pick.
11th pick. Okay. So he was past the top 10.
Yes. He was past top 10. That draft was Eli Manning went number 1, Robert Gallery, Larry Fitzgerald, Phillip Rivers, Sean Taylor, and then the grandma raper, Kellen Winslow, Roy Williams, D'Angelo Hall, Reggie Williams, Dante Robinson, and then Ben Roethlisberger.
So you had Big Ben, Eli Manning, and Larry Fitzgerald. It's a pretty nice collection of talent there.
Yeah. Vince Wilfork was in that draft. Steven Jackson.
Oh, that's right. Steven Jackson was in that draft.
Bob Sanders.
Mm-hmm. That was a good draft.
Yeah, it was not a shabby draft.
Yeah, your top 15, you had 2 Super Bowl winning quarterbacks. I'd say that's, that alone right there is pretty good.
Pretty good. So NFL, Pittsburgh would have the 2nd pick if the draft were to be today. Carolina would be the 1st.
Oh yeah, Carolina is bad.
And it's just based on strength of schedule. So the draft order would be Carolina, Pittsburgh, Detroit, Washington, Las Vegas, Houston, Atlanta, the Texans, which is the Cleveland pick, the Eagles, which is the Saints pick, Seattle, then Seattle again, which is Denver's pick, Arizona, the Lions, which is the Rams pick, the Patriots, Jacksonville, then the Bears. The Bears would be the 16th pick. The Bears are 2-3, and they would be the 16th pick.
Yeah, well, that's why we don't draft after 5 games.
Man, I just looking forward to a win. I really am. And this end of the year schedule is work some things out, because that end of the schedule is just going to be brutal. And I don't want to watch the Buffalo Bills mud stomp this team
on Christmas.
Figure. Hey, Sean, Merry Christmas. Oh, right. Kicking the nuts.
Hey, Sean, Merry Christmas.
It's the Bills fan pulling a reversal. He pulls out an Uno reverse card, and the Bills fan comes in stilts in my yard, barfing all over the place.
Oh no, the Bills fan puking there. You can see.
Oh my God. Bills fan puke.
Ugh. Still the gnarliest video I think I've ever watched. I didn't even watch that on purpose. I was literally just scrolling on my timeline and there it was.
There's one from a baseball game that I saw recently that was worse. It was like an older lady and she just put her head between her knees and just and then just looked around like nothing happened. I was like, oh my God.
I saw that one. Yeah.
I guess at least it didn't get all over her like Bills fan puke.
Yeah. Oh God.
Do you think that Bills fan rallied after that and still was able to jump through a folding table?
Oh, of course. I mean, it's in their DNA. They have to.
Somebody I work with is from Buffalo and he's a Bills fan. And I was like, are you going to jump through a folding table? And he's like, the only folding table we had, I jumped through last year. And like, okay. I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay, you might need a new folding table if this is your year.
I like to think that Bills fans are like Catholics where you need to go through confirmation and it's instead of your first communion, it's like your first table slam.
You jump through your first table. That's amazing. Oh my God. I'm just picturing somebody in there, like, the Catholics the kid comes in there with like his short sleeves and his clip-on tie, and the kid comes in with his Bills jersey and it just goes through the folding table, and his drunk uncle is like standing there with a the hard hat with 2 beers in it with the straw in his mouth.
You have to drink the ceremonial beer before you do it. It's like out of a red Solo cup. You got to lift it like a communion cup, but it's a red Solo cup of beer, and then everyone watches as you slam, and then you have a big party afterwards.
They're like, Jim Kelly lost 4 Super Bowls for your sins.
And a big celebration afterwards. There's a party. There's people, like cheering with like rally towels, and
It's a rite of passage. Once you go through your first table, you're allowed to drink from the keg.
Exactly. Son, you've done very well. You are now a man. You may drink through your first keg. The rite of passage. Jump through your first table. Those Bills fans do not screw around. They have their rituals.
That's true. That is true.
And just imagine if they win the Super Bowl this year.
Buffalo is a tough place to live. It is not a fun place. And that team has had a lot of heartache. I'm not going to be mad if they win the Super Bowl.
No, me neither. And I think that Josh Allen is the type of quarterback where a lot of people could just watch him for the entertainment value. I mean, he's so good. Let's be real. A lot of people. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My hope is that we see a Josh Allen arc with Justin Fields, because if you remember the first couple of years of Josh Allen, everyone's like, this guy can't play.
Right.
He's not an NFL quarterback. And I think it was his 3rd year is when he made his jump. And, I'm really hoping. And I see a lot of parallels between Justin Fields and Josh Allen. And if we get that type of player, Bears fans are going to be a happy group of campers.
Absolutely. No question. And that's been kind of my hope all along, because we need something to hang our hats on as we're going through this rebuilding process. And not every quarterback is the same. Not everyone's going to develop the same. However, you could look at plenty of scenarios where it wasn't looking good initially for a Hall of Fame quarterback, and then it turned out to be, I'm not saying Justin Fields is going to be a Hall of Fame quarterback, but plenty of good / Hall of Fame quarterbacks, they didn't get off to so great starts. I'm pretty sure that Troy Aikman's first year was pretty god-awful. And Peyton Manning led the league in interceptions in his first year, and Josh Allen was not very good. We've seen those scenarios happen before, and it gives you a little bit of hope.
Yeah, Terry Bradshaw was bad to start his career. Josh Allen was bad to start his career.
And a lot of these guys, sometimes we can look at like an Aaron Rodgers situation where, oh, he sat behind Brett Favre, he came in, he was great. Well, a lot of these other great quarterbacks, Peyton Manning wasn't sitting behind another Peyton Manning.
No, and honestly, is go watch one of Aaron Rodgers' first games as a Packer. Chris Collinsworth is like, oh, this Aaron Rodgers, if he's going to play like this, it's not going to be long for the NFL or something like that. And it's like you could Google, like you could find it on YouTube. Like clearly,
Sure.
Aaron Rodgers had struggles at the beginning. I mean, he did have a number of years to sit and learn, but sitting and learning is not a magic pill that you're like, oh, you just sit long enough, because Josh Rosen would be an exceptional quarterback. It is you either have it or you don't, and sitting and learning under somebody else, you're really just getting familiar with the speed of the game without having live contact and the repercussions and being forced to sink or swim. You get floaties, but just because, I mean, any old schmuck gets to sit and learn behind somebody doesn't mean they're going to be good. I mean, Mitch Trubisky got to sit behind Josh Allen, and it didn't make him a better quarterback.
Floaty.
So, Pat Mahomes sat for a year, and really he just learned the playbook. And then
and it helps when the playbook is Andy Reid's playbook.
Yeah, and what's funny is the Andy Reid tree of coaches is pretty terrible, but Andy Reid himself is smart. It's kind of like Bill Belichick. That Belichick tree is terrible, but Bill Belichick is great. You have other people that are like, oh, hey, their tree, like the Mike Holmgren tree, is pretty darn amazing. And, there's a lot of coaches that just like, oh, hey, their tree of coaches is really good. Is the Andy Reid and the Bill Belichick ones are not good, but both of those coaches are hell of coaches. They're really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Mike Holmgren, he was a pretty good coach.
But you just look at the coaches underneath him, and it was like John Gruden, Andy Reid, Herm Edwards, like just like this list of coaches, and you're like, holy crap! Like that tree was really good, and but just because you're a good coach doesn't necessarily mean that the coaches under you are good.
Yeah, that's a statement. That's a fact.
You look at the Parcells tree, and the Parcells tree spawned Bill Belichick.
They did.
So you want to talk a little baseball?
Yeah, I'm currently watching the tiebreaker wild card game, winner take all. Padres lead 4-0 over the Mets.
I should be watching that because this NFL game is terrible. But I just want to point out that even though the Cardinals made the playoffs, the Cubs have more wins in October this year than the Cardinals.
Oh my God. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Boy, impressive work by Philly. I mean, they were down 2-0 in the ninth inning in game one, and they rally for 6 runs in St. Louis, and then you shut them out the next day. That's some impressive work by the Phillies.
You mean the Phillies that the Cubs just swept recently?
The season series. Imagine losing a game to the Philadelphia Phillies. I can't.
No. I mean, it's I just love to see it. I don't give a shit about the Phillies, but man, seeing the Cardinals lose it is my second favorite thing to seeing the Cubs win. Like, I just love it. Sure, they made the playoffs. Whoop-de-doo. They made 2 games and they got swept out of the playoffs. So
Yep.
hang your hat on that.
Yep. 3 of the 4 wild card series were sweeps. Cleveland swept in that 15-inning game that ended 1-0. How about them apples? And then the Mariners down 8-1 complete the sweep against the Blue Jays.
That Mariners team is pretty tough. So it's gonna be fun baseball. I kind of like this new format.
Yeah, I've been kind of iffy on having a third wild card, but so far I've enjoyed it. The matchups in the division series will have the Phillies Braves should be good. I think the Braves are far and away the better team, but what the postseason shows is that you can go on the road and win games. I mean, the Phillies were heavy underdogs going to St. Louis, and they're going to be heavy underdogs going to play the defending champs. So I'd like to see a good series there. And I'm really curious to see how Cleveland matches up with the Yankees in the playoffs. Power pitching, power lineup. Who's going to win?
Yeah, but I do like this. I was never a fan of the 1-game wild card series. Baseball is all about a series, not a 1-game winner takes all. And to put basically that entire somebody's entire playoff series or lives in 1 game, that's I don't know, it just never sat right.
They were trying to emulate the game 163s because people loved game 163, but the feeling just wasn't the same because it was always planned. Half the magic of game 163 was the fact that it didn't happen every year. And it's like, okay, here's 2 teams with the exact same record. Something's got to give. That's what made game 163 great. Just you didn't have quite the same magic with that 1-game playoff that was already scheduled.
Yeah, like the 163 game is fun, but yeah, the 1-game playoff, meh. I kind of like this 3-game series. It gives a true advantage, I think, to the teams that play the best, get the best record, because then a team has to play at least 2 games before they face them. So I think that's kind of a good advantage because odds are you're going to throw your 1 and 2. And it rewards the team for doing well during the regular season. So I'm so far liking this format. As much fun as it is sometimes to see somebody like squeak into the playoffs and then go far, unless it's the Cardinals. Sometimes you want to see the best teams play.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I might not be crazy about the Dodgers, mainly because I'm just jealous of them, but the idea of seeing the Dodgers and the Yankees in the World Series, that would be one hell of a matchup.
Baseball needs it too. I think 2 teams that have just been great all year long, and 2 historic franchises, 2 biggest markets in baseball. I'm here for it, as much as I don't want either of those teams to win, because the Dodgers keep winning and I don't like seeing the Yankees win because their fans are obnoxious. I think that's a good for baseball. But I'm not gonna, honestly, at this point, Cardinals are out. I'm not really rooting against anybody per se. So it would be nice to see the Padres go far.
We'll see how far the Mariners go. That's kind of an interesting one. And I'm also curious to see if Atlanta can defend that title for how long they can do it. It's a good team.
It is a good team. They've been kind of quietly a good team, because they're in the same division as the Mets, and the Mets are the one that got all the publicity this season.
Well, remember when the Mets media was saying, "Call it, it's over." It sounded more Boston-y.
You did sound more Boston.
Yeah, that was Boston-y. I'm sorry.
What channel's the baseball game on?
That is on ESPN.
Oh, okay. Flip on that because this football game is terrible. ESPN. But on the other side of town, I mean, really, what else is there to talk about? The Cubs. We've talked ad nauseum. They need to add talent. Seems like the pitching is the homegrown pitching is actually starting to look solid. We got to get the hitters now. I'm pretty confident that we've seen the last of Wilson Contreras in a Cubs uniform.
Yeah, I'm prepared for the end. I don't want to call it until it happens, but it would not surprise me if they let him walk and they went like an Austin Hedges type route. You have Yan Gomes as your veteran already on there, so it's really a matter of that. I don't think you could go into the season trusting Miguel Amaya. I want to see Miguel Amaya play. But the injuries just keep piling up,
and they've been serious injuries.
Yes, very serious injuries. It's too bad because when he has played this year, he's looked pretty good. He has looked pretty good.
Yeah, I just want to see a full season under his belt because he was. I mean,
talent's there.
The expectation was that he would be up in the majors like in 2022, 2023 ish, and those injuries set him back. So who knows when he makes his major league debut.
Yeah, I mean, you got to bring in, if you're serious about contending, you got to bring in, if you're not going to bring Wilson Contreras in, you need to bring in somebody else, a guy that either is decently offensively and a good catcher or a great catcher. We've seen contending teams be like, you know what? Now that we don't have our pitchers batting, we're going to get a really, really good defensive catcher that might not necessarily hit, and he's just going to be our 9-hitter. But the value in pitch framing, pitch calling, and defense behind the plate is the value that we want. So we're going to focus on that. Maybe that's the route they do. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I don't know if I can put money on Wilson Contreras being back. The thought of him playing on the Cardinals, though, makes me want to just stick my head in a microwave.
The part of me is like, would he do that out of spite?
I mean, if they're offering, why wouldn't you? And I'm not saying even out of spite, but if the Cardinals make a good offer and you make good money, be like, hey, I'm going to a contender. Why wouldn't I? Yeah, I'd pray that doesn't happen.
On the other side of town, you've got the White Sox. The report is that Abreu is not going to be tendered a contract. And
going to be a free agent.
And which I'm going to take a wild guess he's going to retire.
You think?
Yeah, he has said multiple times that he doesn't want to play for anybody but the White Sox.
I don't think he retires. Maybe I'm wrong, but if you have a chance to go somewhere and win a pennant, make some money.
I guess with the White Sox, it makes sense because you need that first base in the designated hitter spots for Eloy Jimenez and other players you have, and you just don't have the room for Abreu. It sucks because like he has been really good for your team. He still put up good numbers this year.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's been the face of your franchise for almost a decade.
And to see him just unceremoniously, being let go, Like it's tough. And if the White Sox take that salary that they would be paying Jose Abreu and actually go out and use it to sign a left fielder or
Another starter.
Some position that they need and actually get an impact player, then all right, I'm not gonna be mad about it. But if they just don't bring him back and then they just put that money in their coffers,
Oh, we gotta pay Yasmani Grandal.
like then that's bogus. Then that's absolutely bogus because this team is this team needs work, a lot of work, not just some retooling, but I think they need a change of philosophy, and they really got to make some changes. And I'm not even, maybe you trade somebody off of the major league roster to shake things up.
I think they're gonna have to. I mean, Rick Hahn kind of alluded to that in his press conference. That throwing money doesn't always solve the problems, and kind of hinting that you have to get creative. Well, you know what that means? That means making trades, and you don't have much in the farm system outside Osterkolisk and Montgomery, so you're probably going to have to trade someone on the roster. And right now, the question is, who would you trade? Because Moncada is not going to bring you a lot of value back right now. For the money he's making in the year he put up last year, it's not going to make you a ton of money. Or it's not going to give you a lot of value back. Grindal, nobody's taken that.
No.
So you're not going to trade those. You're probably looking at an Andrew Vaughn and Eloy Jimenez. I mean, those would probably seem like the two likely, right? You're not going to trade Luis Robert, I don't think.
No.
Do you discuss trading Tim Anderson? I wouldn't think so, but do they say, you know what, we need to value more defense?
I mean,
I don't know.
I would not put it past them. I would say it's unlikely, but not out of the like they would love to trade Moncada, but he's just untradeable. They would love to trade Grandal, untradeable, but out of guys that they could get value for. Eloy, yeah, you're right. I mean, you named the ones. Tim Anderson. I think losing Abreu and Tim Anderson in the same offseason would probably be a tough pill to swallow.
It would be, yeah.
Luis Robert probably is close to untouchable. Him and Cease.
Yeah, I think any quote unquote untouchables would be Robert, Cease. That really should be it.
Yeah, I think that might be it.
That doesn't mean they're going to trade everyone else. That doesn't mean they're going to get value from everyone else, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying is those, yeah, Cease untouchable. If you can trade Lucas Giolito, you do that, I think.
If you get a starting pitcher in return, because that's the thing. I mean, when you're looking at the starting rotation for next year, you have Cease, you have Lynn, you have Giolito, you have Kopech. Johnny Cueto is going to be a free agent. I don't know if you're re-signing him next year. I believe Vince Velasquez is going to be a free agent. So, you do need arms, and that's going to be important to acquire. And does Giolito really have a lot of value right now? He had a rough year.
He did. And
look, Eloy Jimenez, in terms of raw talent, I think has a lot of value, but do teams worry about his health issues? Obviously, if you're a team that needs a DH, I think that, right there could be a good fit. But again, we've seen him get hurt on the base paths, not just in the outfield. So is that a concern for teams?
Yeah, I'm thinking Andrew Vaughn is probably the leading candidate to get traded.
I think he should be, but I feel like the White Sox are very married to Andrew Vaughn.
I mean, the thing is, like, is if you trade Vaughn, you could bring back Abreu,
Right.
and the numbers are not astronomically different. Um, and then you could use the value you get from Vaughn to fill the holes that you have. And I think that's a realistic possibility, because that alleviates a bottleneck and is creative way to bring in talent.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two ways you could look at that too, because long term, it wouldn't be the best move because Abreu's getting older. But if you want to take advantage of a window right now, you know what you get in Abreu. That said, from a White Sox perspective, you're looking at a guy who's going to be on arbitration money versus re-signing via free agency.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is this White Sox window is not a big wide window. It is a pretty narrow window, and then it is reset time. So I mean, who knows how many more years you get of Giolito being, I mean, was this a fluke bad year, or is he not the same player that he was a couple of years ago?
I don't know.
Lance Lynn is not getting any younger.
No.
Kopech's health. Tim Anderson had some health problems too. This window is not going to be open for very long, because that farm system's not very good.
No, I mean, the way I see it is get the most of what you can over the next few years in terms of trying to maximize a window to win a World Series. I mean, I think that's really the main option you have, because I don't see the Sox suddenly be going like, you know what, we're going to do another rebuild. You can't do that this soon.
No.
I feel like the next 2-3 years, you got to try to go for it as best you can.
And I think this was their best shot of winning. And they, between injuries and, again, not bulletproofing your roster and manager issues and just guys not playing as well as they should, it didn't happen for you. And next year, I don't think you'll have as good of a chance, but it's still, you have a chance, and you've got to really bulletproof this lineup.
And it does depend on what they do with this off season too. They can increase their chances by a margin if they do it right.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, part of it is, I don't know how you bring back Leury Garcia.
No, that's money you just have to eat.
I think you just eat that money.
It's not even that much.
And because you look at the record of your team when he was in versus when he wasn't, and you're like, how the hell did he get so many at bats this season? And it is tough pill to swallow. And I think you're going to have to gamble a little bit on some young players, either Lennon Sosa or Oscar Colas. One of those two is probably going to have to step up and contribute this year.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of pressure to put on somebody coming up. But if he is the real deal, then that could be a big plus for your lineup. Power bat.
Yeah. So Leury Garcia this year got 300 at bats, and he batted .210 with 3 home runs and a 500 OPS.
Not great, Bob.
I don't even, I don't even know what to say. Like, how do you keep putting that guy in the lineup? He had a negative 1.1 F4.
Leori Garcia has been with the White Sox since 2013. Jose Abreu came to the Sox in 2014. He is longer tenured with the White Sox than Jose Abreu.
Would you like to know what Lurie Garcia's WRC plus was this year?
Do tell me.
39.
Oh my goodness. That's the most money the Sox gave to a position player going into last offseason.
He only walked 2%, 2.2% of the time. Yeah, 210 batting average, 233 on base percentage. So he wasn't even like he couldn't hit and he wasn't walking. Yeah, 39 WRC plus. He was minus 1.1 F4. That is brutal.
Yeah, not very good.
Not good at all. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting off season for the White Sox because they do have limitations on what they can spend just out of Jerry being cheap. And they've got a lot of holes to fill. They need a front end starter. They need a left fielder. They need maybe a third baseman. Things have to get better. Like this is your window is quickly closing, and if this championship window ends with no playoff wins, not even a single game, because did they win any?
2.
Did they? Okay.
They won one against the Astros, one against Oakland.
Okay. Without winning
no
a single
series wins yet.
Without winning a single series in the playoffs, that's a tough pill to swallow for White Sox fans.
It is. You went through all that.
Yeah. You watch them sell off everything. Is my buddy Gary just keeps texting me. He's like, I'm just prepared for the White Sox to just sell off everybody and do another rebuild this offseason. And is it off the table? I don't know.
Yeah, that's rough when you go through all of that. And, listen, if you went through all that and the White Sox had at least gotten to like the ALCS or, showed they could win the playoffs, you'd feel a little better right now. Even if you had a down year, but like, let's say in 2021, they made a deep playoff run. You would at least say like, you know what, we've seen this team prove it before. Let's get back. And listen, you can get back into contention next year. You do this right. You can be a division winner next year. I do not think this window is closed, but you have a lot of work to do. It's work that has to be done honestly with yourself. You can't keep lying to yourself and expect what hasn't come yet. You can't base everything off expectations that were created in 2018, 2019. You got to make changes for what they are right now. That makes sense.
Right. And I mean, the Cubs went through tough times because you're like, okay, we won a World Series, but I don't think the end result was as good as we were all hoping for. And you got to a point where you're like, well, we've got these bad contracts. We've depleted the farm system. We have players that are underperforming, that are due big money and want big money. And you just decided to blow it up and rebuild. And that's a team Cubs team that has the resources to spend as a top 3 spending team in baseball. And the White Sox don't have that ability. And
I think they could if they wanted to. They just don't want to.
Yeah,
but that's all.
They're not willing to.
Right.
They're not willing to do that. They've got a bad contract in Yasmani Grandal, and they've depleted their farm system, and they've got a lot of injury issues, and they're trying to figure things out. I don't think they will blow it all up, but if they blew it all up, would I be extraordinarily shocked? What if they do a Boston Red Sox type thing where they tear it down a year to come back the next year?
Right. I think I personally, I think they're at a point where they have to go for it next year, because if fans see that they want to do another rebuild or retool, that they're not going to like that after all you went through with this core.
The White Sox fans, Cubs fans just show up no matter what for the most part. I mean, I know we've seen some empty seats this year, but for the most part, they put up good attendance numbers every year, even if
having Wrigley Field helps. Yeah.
Right. And the White Sox fans, like, going to Wrigleyville is an event. People come in from out of town and they're like, I want to go to a Cubs game. And the White Sox fans are more fickle. When you put a bad product on the field, they just don't show up.
They don't want to put up with it. They simply don't. And if you don't make any changes, they're not going to put up with it. And frankly, I wouldn't blame them. If they did minimal changes and tried to run everything back and they didn't go, I wouldn't blame them one bit.
Right. So it's you are putting your team in jeopardy if you blow things up of fans just not coming to the baseball games.
Yeah, they're going to say, F you, Jerry, we're not coming.
And they do not like Jerry.
No, they don't. And I don't blame them for not liking Jerry.
And now that they don't have Tony La Russa to share some of their ire with, like, those fans are going to show up in the stadiums with like fire Jerry signs.
Oh, they already are. They already are.
It's just going to be brutal when you have like everybody behind home plate just, with their signs about Jerry multiple times a week. He'll eventually find out about it.
What were they saying about me?
What did that say? When did they start doing this? What? They've been doing it for a year?
How do I not know? Doing this for quite a while.
Well, give me another butterscotch pudding snack.
Yes, sir. Tony La Russa is sitting next to him sleeping.
Just passed out, sitting upright.
Yeah. He just starts snoring.
But there's one more topic that I wanted to talk about briefly. And it is the Blackhawks.
Tank, 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 tank.
This team is so bad. We knew that they weren't going to be good, but I don't think any of us were prepared for how bad it is. If this preseason is any indicator, like, how do we not score any goals? Like, we have no goal scoring.
We have no playmakers. We're getting shut down easy. We don't have power, speed that can contend with other teams. I mean, I said over under a Twitter poll, over under 62 points. And I'm thinking it's going to be like 56, 57 points on the year. This could be one of the all-time bad modern Blackhawks teams. And I'm not going to compare these bad Blackhawks teams like the 1950s, because that's a completely different era. But like going back to like the 90s, I think this is going to be the worst team that we've seen.
Yeah, this is going to be brutal.
I mean, Jonathan Toews looks completely washed, like just completely washed. And Patrick Kane is really the only notable guy on that team, because you have a number of, hey, these guys were pretty good, pretty intriguing back in 2018. Peter Mrazek was once a solid goaltender. Andrei Athanasiou had some good years like 4 or 5 years ago. Max Domi was one of the more notable prospects. And now they're just kind of just warm bodies at this point. I mean, that's really what this Blackhawks roster is right now. It's, I would love for Max Domi or Andrei Athanasiou to find a fountain of youth so they could trade them for some draft picks. But I don't know if we're going to see the 2019 versions of those guys.
I'm reading a thing on the Athletic about the Blackhawks, and it said the hope-o-meter, the Blackhawks, optimistic. Patrick Kane is still on the Blackhawks. Pessimistic views. I'm worried Bedard might Lindros us. We're that in that bad of shambles. Can you imagine if we got Bedard and he just wouldn't play for us?
Yeah, I wouldn't expect that to happen, but yeah, that would be like worst case scenario ever. I'm at the point where I just pray to the hockey gods that we win the lottery. But the good news is, regardless, this draft is pretty good. This upcoming draft is good. So they're going to be drafting high no matter what. And there's going to be some, even if it's not Connor Bedard, there's going to be talent on the board, notable talent. And I trust Kyle Davidson's drafting way over Stan Bloman.
Somebody else wrote, optimism, 0 out of 100. A barren wasteland that will end in like the 4th pick in the draft because we defaulted on mortgaging our souls to the devil for some really fun hockey for a decade.
Yep. And you know what? I'm sure there will be a point this season where I pay for $7 tickets in the 300 level, and maybe I'll go on a weeknight. So the place is half empty, nice, quiet. I could just vibe, eat my United Center nachos and French fries, and just see some really awful hockey for a cheap price, and just spread my arms and legs out and just enjoy the smells of the concession stands of the United Center and hear the dull roar of whoever is there. And then I will pay for a nice $15 Bud Light, as Gene Honda says, "This is sponsored by Bud Light. For the love of God, come to our games again." Yeah, it's going to be bad, but I'm going to try to make the best of it.
Yeah.
Blackhawks games used to be must-see TV where I looked forward to every game every night, whether I was in high school or college or even out. I met and bonded with so many people in college over the Blackhawks, and we'd get together, we watch all those games, and now at most it's going to be just background noise on the TV.
I'm obligated to be going to at least one Blackhawks game this year because my friend Brad has a son my daughter's age, and he's going to be skating during intermission with his hockey team.
Probably be better than the team.
And so I'm going to have to sit through the crap to watch that, because it's going to be brutal.
You know what? Let's do a Swerski trip, a Swerski Sports podcast trip to the United Center to watch some awful hockey, just for the hell of it. We'll go on Ticketmaster. We'll get some like $10 tickets. We'll eat nachos and laugh at how bad the team is, and we'll just have a good time.
Scott Powers is projecting Blackhawks to have like 74 points this year.
What? Yeah, divide that in half.
Is he drunk?
Maybe he's just optimistic.
Here's what he says to say. seems high, which apparently was somebody else's reaction to. The Blackhawks finished with 68 points last season, and this season's team was designed to be even worse. They began subtracting from the team at the trade deadline last year and did so even more over the offseason. It's a team that was created to fail and contend for the lowest point total in the league. 74 points wouldn't get them there. So they project the Montreal Canadiens, Arizona Coyotes to be worse.
I mean, they're both pretty bad, but I don't think they're going to get 74 points.
No. Then they're also projecting the Flyers to have 77. That's not happening either. Like, those might be the two worst teams in the draft.
You know what?
League.
You know what? I'm legitimately tempted to see when the Blackhawks and Coyotes play each other at the United Center, because the idea of being like a historically bad matchup is fun. I've already done it once with the Cubs. I saw the Cubs and the Astros play each other. Shout out to John, Chris, and Rob, my three friends I was with. It was freshman year of college, and we were sitting in the bleachers in the final series of the 2012 season, watching the 100-loss Cubs play like the 105-loss Astros. That's going to be me watching the Blackhawks and the Coyotes this year.
Are the Coyotes?
Just give it to me. Let's see when they come to the United Center.
I'm pretty sure they play a Friday night.
Oh, that's perfect.
So these are the
United Center tickets available. Oh, January 6th, Friday night, and February 10th, Friday night.
2 Friday nights.
Oh, man.
The schedule gods were like, no, you're not going to have a good team in town for the weekend.
Oh, man. I'm watching the Mets game and they're trying to do the trumpet for Diaz. He's coming in a 4-0 game. Oh, geez.
Yeah. Oof. I don't know what that's going to help him with. I think this game might be over. Man, these defensive pairings looking bogus. Alex Vlasic, Seth Jones, Connor Murphy, and Jack McCabe, Jack Johnson, and Caleb Jones. This third line of Sam Lafferty, Jujhar Khaira, and Colin Blackwell.
I like Jujhar Khaira, but yeah. This team.
Yeah. It is going to be brutal.
You know what, though? Next week on our next show, I think we do have to talk some Bulls. And I don't think the Bulls are going to be amazing, but I do think they're at least going to be entertaining.
I was so hoping that the off season, everyone would be healthy. We could come back, see what it's like with all these players. And again, do I think this team has enough superstars to win a title? No. But I was hoping for them to be one of those teams that play so well as a team that they're able to overcome the lack of, having elite superstars. But Ball looks like he might not be back until 2023. And
that's not a good situation.
No,
at all.
Not at all. At all.
I mean, my hopes for this season, and we'll talk more about it on another show, but I want to see Zach LaVine healthy all year, doing what he's doing consistently. I would love to see Vucevic play more consistent this year. I'd like to see Alex Caruso healthy, and I really want to see Patrick Williams take that next step. It's time to take that next step.
it's shit or get off the pot time, I think.
Yeah.
I know everything got set back a little bit because of the injuries last year.
Which is tough, yes.
And I'm not saying that he has to reach his peak performance level this year, but we need to see a significant growth this year.
Exactly. I agree. And I mean, I think the raw ability is there, but we've been talking about it. We want to see it.
Yeah. But I mean, basically the thing I want to see the most is I want to see him play with confidence.
Absolutely.
I agree. Be aggressive, be confident. And if he plays with both of those, I'm going to feel more confident in him. That we're going to see the best out of him. But he just never showed that last year. It's just we never saw him just have that, Kobe Bryant, will to win type thing. Like, and sure, there's very few players that have that Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, dagger that they can deliver to you. But man, just want to see him play with way more confidence than he does.
Yeah, I agree.
Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
No, I think I've said my piece.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for this episode of Bill Swerski Sports Talk Chicago. I want to thank everybody so much for listening. Please hit subscribe however you listen to podcasts, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, YouTube, Google Play, Spotify, etc. Share this podcast with your friends. It's how we grow the show. Follow us on social media at Swerski Sports, Facebook.com/Swerski Sports, SwerskiSports.com, Shy Fan Pat 2 for Alex on Twitter, or AlexanderJPatCreative.com for all the cool stuff that Alex does. And again, thank you guys so much for listening. And until next time, bear down.
Cubs win! What a lucky break! The good Lord wants the Cubs to win!
We thank Ditka and God for all they have provided.
Cubs win! Cubs win! Cubs win!
Oh, I don't want her. You can have her. She's a Packer fan. She can't fit in my van.
And she looks like Remember, New Yorkers, smoking crack is not legal on planes.
Bears 31 to -7.
The Bears.
Oh, when the Bears go bearing down.